Hey there everyone, this is the first tutorial of the series of Python. So what we're going to do in the first tutorial is we're going to install Python 3 and also a text editor. We're going to install Python on our computer system, whether you have a Mac, you have a Windows, and then we're going to have a text editor. And initially I could say that you could write in almost anything you could want, like you could write in a notepad or a Windows edit or anything. You just need a text editor, but there are some fancy text editors out there which are preferred, which make the task more easier. So my preferred text editor for this series is going to be VS Code. So that's what we're going to install. So let's get this started. Search python.org/downloads. So the first thing you got to do is you have to type python.org/downloads in your search engine. And what you'd see is that there's a download the latest version for Windows. You can see that there's a 3.9.2, which is the current version while recording this video. So at this time I'm getting this. Now you might be seeing my video in the future, so there will be updates, but it doesn't matter because there are just slightly different updates. So this is the one I'm going to install, and since I'm already using Python on my computer system, I don't need to install it again. So what I'm going to do is that I'm just going to show you how to install it just by clicking on this button. Now you could have preferences if you're using Linux or Unix, so you could download through Unix and Linux thing over here. If you have a Mac OS, you could click this, and if you have any others, so you could click on that. So most preferred is Windows. So like mostly a lot of people have Windows. So when you click on this, you would see that there's a latest Python release, which is 3.9.2. Now you would see that I already have Python installed. So what I could do is that I could type in I could go in my command prompt, and what I would do is I would just type in Python. Now when I do this, you could see that it throws me something that says 3.9.0. Now I have this already installed and it's in my path, so I will get you in a position where you will be confident and typing this Python out, and it would be definitely in your path. So we're gonna go all the way through, but right here you see that I don't have the latest version installed. So what do I do is that I update my Python. Now I'm going to do that simply by going and clicking on the downloads, and whatever I see the latest version, it's going to be over here. So you could see this navigation, and over here in the nav bar, you would see that navigation bar, you would see that there is a 3.9.2 button. So I click on this. Now you'd see that there's a Python 3.9.2-AMD64.executable file. Now this is a window like a wizard. So what I'm just going to do is just going to click on this, and you could see that there's an executable file which is going to run on my computer. So I just click on run. And now you could see that I already installed it. So it just says to me, would you like to upgrade it or not? So you would see just install, and you just have to click on it again and again. So for me, I'm just going to upgrade it. So it's just going to upgrade it to 3.9.2. And it's just going to include the additional libraries. And for you, it's just going to be installing it. So it's going to be pretty simple. All right, so here we have our setup successful prompt, and it says that we have upgraded it, and for your prompt it would say it's successfully installed. So we just close this, and now you have Python installed. So congratulations. Just simply type Python, and you would see that there is a Python 3.9. So when you click on this, you see a terminal popping up. So you could just like write any simple Python command and it would work. So what are these three angle brackets? Well, these are known as chevron prompts, and they're basically asking what you want to do next. So the Python is just asking, what do you want me to do? So what we do is over here we could say print, and we could say something like coding cleverly, and you would see that the Python responded and print this thing on the screen. So we're gonna get all through this, and now what we want to do is we want to put this in our path. Now what we do is that this is not our CMD, our command prompt, and we want to make this as our path. And now you would be asking, why would I want to do this? Well, this is going to come handy when you're going to go out and explore more on code, and it's going to be much more useful later on. So just trust me. Now that we have installed Python, try to check if that is it working in your command prompt. So by simply typing Python, you won't get anything except it's just an error that's saying it doesn't exist. Okay, so if I'm writing pytof and it says it's not recognizing an internal or external command, and this is exactly what you're going to get because the system doesn't recognize it. It's not inside of its path, so we have to configure it and place it inside of its path. So what we do is that we go to the Windows icon, and you would see that we have Python installed, so we just type Python. Now over here you have to click on open file location. This is where the Python is installed in our computer, and it's most generally in our C drive. So you'd see C drive and there's a big path. So just copy the path by Control C. And now what you would do is that you would go back. So what you're gonna do is that basically you wanna go in your advanced system settings. So go on your Windows, and generally in Mac, you would already have this installed, and Mac already uses Python already built in, same as goes to Linux and all of that. So in Windows, you just have to do a little configuration. So you go to this system properties, and you would see that there's advanced, and then there's environment variables. So you click on this, and you would see that there's one for HP and one for system variables. We go on the system variables and we click on path, and we just want to edit this. So we click on this, and you would see that there is nothing over here that says Python. So what I would do is that I would create a new one, and I would just paste my Python path inside over here. Like I could apply OK here, and so if I save this, I apply OK and OK. Now what I would do is that I would go back to my command prompt and just write CMD, and you would see now if I type Python, you could see that it's appearing. So I hope that this worked for you guys. And now let's go to the next part of this, and this is by installing our IDE. Now what is an IDE? Is an integrated development environment. It's just a fancy environment where you could write your Python code. So basically it's just an IDE, and it provides so many features which are really helpful that are going to come out when you create awesome looking projects in the future. So go to code.visualstudio.com. My preferred IDE for this video series is going to be Visual Studio Code, and this is the code editor which is so famous right now that when you go in the tech industry, you're not going to be like out. You're not going to be lost, because the VS Code is the editor for the future. It supports multiple, not just Python, but it supports all of the languages, and it's widely used. So what you do is that you download for Windows. It has this stable build. You could go down and you would see Mac OS and Windows x64, and then there's Linux. So what you would do is that if you have a Mac, you just have to click on this stable release, and then you have to click on Windows. You could just click on this. Since I already have my VS Code installed, I could just show you that you could just click on this, and what I would do is just gonna say thanks for downloading, and then another executable file will be installed. So this is really simple, and you're just gonna click next. So the window wizard is so simple. You just have to install the VS Code onto your system, and once you do, then meet me in the next part. So once you have VS Code installed on your machine, and you also have Python installed on the machine, so you just have to open up VS Code. So you go to the Windows and type in VS Code. So you would see Visual Studio Code over here. So I would just click on this, and this is the interface, the environment of VS Code. Now you can see that there's basically something that is over here, and you would see that this is the welcome screen, and you will always have to cross this out. And this is basically the general page of it. You would see that there's file, edit, selection. These are the menu bar. This is telling me that I'm in a specific folder. So I would just save this, Control S, and I would go back to my desktop. So I would go to the desktop, and you would see over here that there's a Python series folder, and I just created a Python series folder, and I recommend you to create a series folder yourself. It's really simple. Just right click, and you would see that there's a new option, and over here you could say folder, and over here you could just type in the name of a folder. So just create a folder name, and that's all it. So we already have a folder that says Python series. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to delete this one, and I'm just going to locate that file over here. I'm going to call my file as hello.python. All right. So this is our main place over here. Now once you say something like .py, now this is the extension for Python. Now what the VS Code environment will tell you something that you need to install, and what you would see that there are extensions over here, and you would see that I have C++ and C installed, and you would know that I have a C++ series as well. There's a Python one that I already installed, and you can install anything you want over here. So this is the extensions place, and just type in Python, and you would see that there is this one which has over 31 million downloads, and this is the one that is recognized by Microsoft. So this is the official extension. So you just have to install it. Over here you would see that I have an uninstalled because I already have this installed, and you can enable it, and then refresh the page, and you would see that Python is automatically installed on your computer. You don't need to do anything else. So just write hello.py and do the exact same things what I've done. So apart from that, you would see other options like this, which is the debug, and this you could do with your Python code when you want to run and check for errors. This is for source control. It's when you want to go a little more complex, when you have big projects and want to adopt version control and use Git. So it's pretty useful to do this, as well as to publish to GitHub. Over here you could search for different files and folders, and you could do other options as well. Now this is the place where your folder is located. So I would have to like remove this folder because I'm not in this anymore. It's in this. So what I would do is I would just delete this, and I would just go over here in this file, and I would just go open, and I could go open with code, and that would automatically open up the folder where it is. So you could see over here, now the folder is finally not in any other. So you could just open up a folder like that, just click on this, and you would see that there's this Python series, and I just select this, and then now we're finally open in that specific folder. So you'd see that this is cross symbol, and there's nothing else extra, and you have a Python